There it is. He timed it right.
Counting to explode with the left. Oh, and that right, but Matias took off some of the steam of the punch, but still.
Welcome to the motherfucking lady. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. You may have heard earlier today, Eddie Hearn hands Elifie Nur Turan a new deal. Immediately targets Caroline Dubois. IBF lightweight champion Elifie Nur Turan has signed a multi-fight extension with Matchroom, and promoter Eddie Hearn has immediately set his sights on Caroline Dubois' unification match. Turan, 12-0 with 8 KOs, won the title by dismantling the previously unbeaten champion Beatriz Ferreira, who up until recently was this division's boogie woman. She beat Beatriz Ferreira inside 5 one-sided rounds in Monaco last month. You have to wonder what becomes of the amateur standout Beatriz Ferreira, now the former champion. Has Matchroom jettisoned this fighter and replaced her with Elifie Turan after just one loss? They didn't sack Terry Harper when she got knocked out by Alicia Baumgartner or Sandy Ryan when she lost to Erica Farias and Michaela Mayer. So if they sacked Beatriz Ferreira, or will they help to rehabilitate her? You have to wonder. Back over to Elifie Turan, and her reward after one of the biggest wins in women's boxing across the previous year was this new deal with Matchroom, kicking off January 31st when she makes her first world title defense. The Golden Turk will face Australia's own Taylor Jensen, 8-1 with 3 knockouts at Newcastle's Utilita Arena as part of the undercard for Bakram Murtazaliev's IBF junior middleweight defense against Josh Kelly. But promoter Eddie Hearn has big plans for the exciting puncher if she takes care of Jensen at the end of this month. Top of his wish list is WBC champion Dubois, one of 4 135-pound champion in the women's code. Stephanie Hahn defended her WBA title against Holly Holm earlier this month, while Yorkshire's Terry Harper is the current WBO champion. In a press release, Hearn said, Elifie is the hardest female puncher, pound for pound. No question. In fact, she is one of the fiercest fighters on the planet today. I'm thrilled to have signed Elifie to a new Matchroom deal because there are many huge nights waiting for her. I think a fight with the WBC champion Caroline Dubois is one of the best bouts you can make in boxing. The last 12 months or so, with the migration of so many of Matchroom's Valkyries over to MVP, people started to wonder whether or not Matchroom still had a stake in the women's game. So close to Katie Taylor's retirement, who has been Matchroom's golden girl up until this point, there was a feeling, at least in some circles, that Matchroom had a wavering commitment to the women. This extension would seem to address that. Now bear in mind that they still have Katie Taylor, they still have Sandy Ryan, they still have Shannon Ryan, they still have Rhiannon Dixon, Maisie Rose, Sky Nicholson, and Molly McCann. They still have a good number of female fighters in their roster, and of course, they have Elifie Turan. They're still in the game. Reiterating what I said before about Matchroom, signing women fighters for them was largely experimental in the beginning, but now that they have a lot of experience in that field, they are now refining their methods. It's not just about signing women for the sake of signing women. Now they want to turn them into bankable draws, fighters who can sell. The next phase. Don't confuse this with philanthropic work, because it's not. This is a business, and that's what they're trying to run. A business. I was a little bit ambivalent when I heard that Elifie Turan had re-signed to Matchroom at a time where most every female fighter around the world, they're climbing over each other to sign to MVP. She decided to stay put. Was that the right decision? And then it dawned on me that Matchroom has never been as territorial with their fighters as some other promoters, that re-signing to Matchroom does not impede Elifie's ability to fight under another banner. It did not impede Alicia Baumgartner's opportunity to fight Michaela Mayer on the boxer side of things. Matchroom didn't stand in the way. Matchroom didn't stand in the way of Sandy Ryan fighting Michaela Mayer, not once, but twice, on the top-ranked side of things. They let it happen. They didn't stand in the way of Katie Taylor boxing Amanda Serrano, not once, but twice, over there at Netflix. So when I think about Elifie Turan re-signing to them, that does not impede her ability to capitalize on a big opportunity if one rolls around. That even if 3 of the 4 champions at this weight are all signed to MVP, if at some point MVP wants to use Elifie, Matchroom will let them. Given her punching power, I have serious reservations as to what champions would even want to fight her, but the bottom line is, re-signing to Matchroom doesn't stop anything from happening that needs to happen. She will still have enough wiggle room to go where the opportunities are. And in the meantime, while she's waiting for a big opportunity to roll around, Matchroom can keep her busy, like they're keeping her busy on the undercard of Murtazaliev versus Kelly. They can get her fights. They can still get her fights. So in the end, Elifie Turan re-signing to Matchroom was not a bad move. One that her and her team likely made from a sense of loyalty. Matchroom has been the catalyst that has gained her career all this attention and all this traction. It starts with the Shauna Brown fight in Ireland, segues to the Rima Ayadi fight in France, then caps off with the knockout win over Beatriz Ferreira for the IBF title. Matchroom had everything to do with that. Set those events in motion. So to Elifie and her team, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Matchroom got us up until this point. Let's see how far we can go with them. They're now marketing her as the most dangerous woman in the world. The most dangerous woman in boxing. They found a way to sell her. The Golden Turk. And super lightweight news, Dalton Smith aims to show Subriel Matias that he has fight-ending power too. We don't want to say that Subriel is one-dimensional, but he is known for one thing: pressure. The Puerto Rican native doesn't bring anything tricky or out of the ordinary to the table, but no matter who's in front of him, Matias moves forward, poised and purposed, and he doesn't stop throwing punches, usually, until his opponent is unable to continue. Dalton Smith. We'll find out exactly how hard Matias hits this weekend when they square off for the latter's WBC Junior Welterweight title at Brooklyn's Barclays Center. Boxing and moving seems like the obvious game plan. It's what Liam Paro used to beat Matias for his IBF 140-pound strap in 2024. It's also what Alberto Puello attempted to do on the Ring 3 at New York City's Louis Armstrong Stadium last summer. Puello, however, lost that fight and his title by a contentious decision. Smith could attempt to do the same, but more than anything, he plans on letting Matias know that he isn't the only big puncher in the ring on Saturday night. "I punch hard," Smith said to several reporters. "I think in any fight, you've got to get the opponent's respect. Whether amateur or pro, to a certain extent, Smith is right. The ring's number 7 ranked contender has stopped 13 of his 18 opponents. Still, even with the run he's on, Smith knows good and well how dangerous Matias is. Nevertheless, he believes his level will rise now. That the stakes are incredibly high. Subriel will bring the best out of me," Smith continued. "The bigger the danger in front of me is when I perform." I've highlighted that myself on more than one occasion in the build-up of this fight, that Subriel can punch, but so can Dalton Smith. And because Subriel has such leaky defense and all that come-forward momentum, it is possible that Dalton could knock him out. I'm not banking on that. I think Subriel is going to knock Dalton out. I think he's going to wear him out is what I think. But it is possible, because having a chin, having good punch resistance like Subriel has exhibited, is not all it's cracked up to be. It's the kind of thing that works up until it doesn't. Till one day it's just gone. It evaporates, like what we saw with Jarrett Hurd, for example. He was known for his punch resistance, for having a good chin. Then one day it was just gone. The trick is figuring out when exactly is that going to happen. When exactly is an otherwise durable fighter going to stop being durable? And I don't know, but I don't think it's this weekend. I don't have Dalton winning the fight. I have Subriel winning the fight. Subriel, who had some choice words for what used to be his promoter, Eddie Hearn. He said he tried to sabotage the fight with the test issue because I know it was him and his team who put it out. I'd better stay quiet. What the fuck's he talking about? At the final press conference for the event yesterday, Eddie Hearn said something along the lines of justice being served if Dalton wins and Subriel loses, highlighting Subriel's anti-doping fiasco. Hollow words coming from Eddie. And that was Subriel's response, that he knows Eddie Hearn had something to do with that information being leaked. Some are interpreting this as Eddie Hearn setting up Subriel Matias with VADA, but I don't think that's what he meant. So when you contract VADA to do the testing for a fight, whatever they find, whatever the results are, that information is privileged and only disclosed to the affected parties, the two fighters and their teams, whatever sanctioning body is sanctioning the fight, for a version of a title and the commission.
That's it.
It's privileged information, so that if that intel finds its way to the journos, the boxing media, it's gotta be because somebody leaked it. And what is unique about Subriel's situation is where there are people in the boxing space treating this like it's a positive, like it's a slam dunk and he got caught in the act. In all actuality, he didn't break any rules.
No?
No. I know that a lot of people out there want these situations to have a one-size-fits-all answer in every situation, but it's not like that. They found Osterin in Subriel's system, but it was below the permissible threshold.
They treat Osterin as a quantifiable substance, not a qualifiable substance. It matters how much they find. And that's all based on the literature. It's not like when Ryan popped hot for Osterin, because when he popped, it was for 60 times the permissible threshold.
What they found was well above the New York State Athletic Commission's threshold for Osterin, whereas with Subriel, it was well below.
He didn't break any rules. That's why they didn't cancel the fight. That's why they didn't suspend him. That's why the World Boxing Council didn't strip him.
It's because he didn't break any rules. And if he didn't break any rules, why was this story reported as such? Why is it even a story?
Because somebody leaked it to the media.
And in Subriel Matias' opinion, that leak came from Eddie Hearn. Why would Eddie Hearn do this? Maybe a veiled effort to sabotage the fight. Get Dalton Smith the title without Dalton having to go through Subriel. Could be that way. Could be a built-in excuse if his man loses.
Subriel was on Osterin.
I have to admit, to see Eddie Hearn up there talking about justice being served in regards to what was a non-issue for Subriel after being the same one who defended Conor Benn for what was it, 1 or 2 years during his doping fiasco?
It was awkward.
The irony of the both of those situations is the evidence against Conor was more damning than any evidence against Subriel. Subriel didn't actually break any rules.
But who was it that Eddie Hearn vehemently defended for a year, 2 years? Conor Benn.
Conor, based on the evidence, would appear more guilty than Subriel. That's the irony. That is the awkwardness.
So you don't think Subriel is doping?
Oh, no, I didn't say that. I think everybody's doping. But the evidence against Subriel is just not strong enough.
That's what it is.
You often hear terms like trace amounts thrown around, all willy-nilly. Well, they found trace amounts of Osterin in Subriel so low that he didn't actually break any rules. It's not like when Ryan popped hot.
The amount of Osterin they found in Ryan was enough for the New York State Athletic Commission to fine him and suspend him. That same commission did not fine Subriel, did not suspend him, because the amount was well below their allowable threshold, making this a non-issue, a non-story. So, if it's a non-story, how did it become one?
Eddie leaked it to the media.
That's what Subriel is talking about. Boxing is a funny old game because Eddie actually used to promote this guy.
Now he's demanding that justice be served. It's funny how that works. Men's welterweight news involving yet another one of Eddie Hearn's fighters, Lewis Crocker, will be ordered to defend the IBF welterweight title against former Matchroom alum Liam Paro. Yet another one of Eddie's fighters coming back to bite him in the arse.
Lewis Crocker believed he had a few options. None, however, turned out to be the one he'll be forced to take. The IBF will order Lewis Crocker to begin negotiations with Liam Paro for a mandatory defense of the IBF welterweight title. Daryl Peoples, president of the IBF, said in a recent ruling, approximately 60 days prior to the mandatory due date pursuant Rule 5C.
So soon after having become champion, the IBF are already on the job and on his ass.
According to the document, which was first obtained by journalist Dan Raphael, Crocker's mandatory title defense date is March 13th, which is not far away. Northern Ireland's Crocker had other plans. The 29-year-old Crocker, who won his welterweight title with a split decision win over Ireland's Paddy Donovan on September 13th, hoped to face Conor Walker. Crocker had won a close decision over Walker in June of 2024.
With the pair having a bit of unfinished business, Crocker attempted to push England's Walker, who isn't ranked in the IBF's top 15, to the front of the line. His attempt, however, was denied. On January 2nd, 2026, IBF received a letter from Matchroom on behalf of champion Lewis Crocker to participate in an optional defense on April 18th or April 25th in Belfast. People stated the proposed April dates are 36 and 43 days, respectively, past the champion's March 13th mandatory due date. On January 7th, 2026, the IBF received a letter from Matt Rose on behalf of Liam Paro, opposing the granting of that exception.
You notice that the people at No Limit fight a lot harder for Liam than Matchroom did.
The IBF directors participated in a video conference to determine whether Mr. Crocker's exception request should be granted or denied. The majority of the directors determined that Lewis Crocker's exception should be denied. Australia's Paro was set to participate in an IBF final eliminator against Paddy Donovan on January 16th, but with Donovan pulling out due to illness, the IBF moved Paro, who was the number 2 at the time in their rankings, to the mandatory position. In the case of Crocker, Walker wasn't the only fighter he was targeting. The newly crowned champion recently revealed to The Ring that he would love a unification bout against WBO champion Heaven Daney. The pound-for-pound star grabbed his latest crown by beating Brian Norman on November 22nd at the A&B Arena in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The 27-year-old also hoped to unify with Crocker, but he has named the likes of Keyshawn Davis and Mario Barrios and Conor Benn as other possible opponents.
What do I think?
I like Crocker versus Paro more than I like Crocker versus Haney. Even if Devin Haney is the more high-profile fighter of the two, the probability of anything dramatic happening when Devin is in the ring is very low. In all likelihood,
Oh, he probably would beat Lewis Crocker.
I'm not saying that he wouldn't. I'm saying the fashion in which he would do it would not entertain. Let's not kid ourselves. Liam Paro, in spite of being more limited than Devin, is more entertaining to watch. And for me, that's what it's all about. Entertainment value more than pound for pound and more than the prestige. A boring fighter is a boring fighter.
Devin is a boring fighter.
You don't think a guy, 43 years old, is staying up till the wee hours of the morning taking in a boxing match for the footwork and the feints?
Bitch, please.
There is a bit more backstory to the Paro fight as well. Paro having been a Matchroom fighter who might feel jilted that he didn't get the red carpet rolled out for him like some other Matchroom fighters upon signing to Matchroom. That Regis Prograis got a homecoming fight. Subriel Matias got a homecoming fight. So did Devin.
So did Boots. But where was Liam's?
After beating the Puerto Rican champion in Puerto Rico in a fight that he was widely favored to lose, where was the homecoming fight for Liam? Where was the red carpet for Liam? If anybody earned that, I would have said it was him.
He ended up fighting Richardson Hitchens. Ends up losing the fight. And it would seem that that's where the relationship ended between him and Matchroom. They didn't try to rehabilitate him. They didn't try to get him back in the winner's bracket. He washes up on the shores of No Limit.
And they have rebuilt him, rehabilitated him. Now he's back for vengeance, to stick it to another one of Eddie's boys. And I find that a lot more intriguing and a lot more entertaining than anything Devin Haney can provide.
Yes, even if Liam is more limited than Devin, I would rather see Lewis fight Liam than Devin.